Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to do something genuinely fascinating. We're going to put comedy under a microscope. We usually just laugh at a quick clip on our phones and scroll right past it, but today, we're breaking down exactly why short-form comedy works. We're going to treat these comedy scripts not just as quick jokes, but as highly engineered, fascinating scientific specimens of human communication. So that brings us to a really fun ultimate question. What makes a 60-second skit actually funny? It's not magic and it's definitely not random. There's a very precise architecture at play here. In this explainer, we're going to reverse engineer the mechanics behind a good laugh, and we're going to use 5 very specific, highly effective 1-minute scripts to do it. We're going to see exactly what makes them tick. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the 1-minute comedy blueprint. Then, rooting comedy in familiarity, the power of absurd logic, mastering the comedic misdirection, and we'll wrap up with why short skits succeed. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the 1-minute comedy blueprint. Think about it. When you've only got 60 seconds to make someone laugh, traditional storytelling goes completely out the window. This medium is ruthless. You have 0 time for deep backstory or complex lore. You simply can't spend 5 minutes explaining who a character is or, why they're sad. You've got to capture instant engagement, literally in the first 2 seconds. And it all demands a rapid, hard-hitting punchline before the viewer's attention span just expires. But here's the thing. These constraints are actually a blessing in disguise. They force creators to build jokes with incredible efficiency and speed. There is absolutely no fat on a 1-minute script. Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, rooting comedy in familiarity. So, with those intense time constraints we just talked about, how do you actually get an audience to care without giving them a backstory? Well, the answer is everyday friction. By using incredibly common, highly recognizable scenarios, a skit saves a massive amount of time on exposition. Think about waking up for school in the morning, desperately searching for a lost phone, showing off a pet's new trick, getting caught eating the last of the cookies, or having to explain to a teacher why you're late. You already know the stakes, right? You already know the power dynamics. The setup is instantly downloaded into your brain, completely bypassing the need for a long, drawn-out introduction. Take a skit we'll call the fake sleep expert, for example. The mom yells, "Wake up! It's 7, school starts in an hour." Boom, we're instantly grounded. Every single one of us has either been the panicked parent or the deeply reluctant kid in this exact scenario. In just 2 short sentences, the world is perfectly built and totally ready for a comedic twist. Moving right along to Section 3, the power of absurd logic. Okay, so once you've got that familiar setting locked in, you need a twist. This is where the magic really happens, and where the laughs are actually generated. In The Exam Genius, the grounded setup is just studying for an exam, but the absurd reality? Staring at a closed book for 2 hours. In The Fake Sleep Expert, the setup is being asleep in bed, but the kid claims to be attending school spiritually. And in The Snack Monster, eating a whole jar of cookies all by yourself is suddenly reframed as doing a group project. It's just the sheer audacity of defending something completely ridiculous with absolute, unwavering confidence. Let's look at this faux academic definition straight out of The Exam Genius. Silent learning, the act of studying for an exam by merely making eye contact with a textbook for 2 hours. The student gets asked by the teacher if he read the book, and he just deadpans, "We made eye contact." It's hilarious because he uses this very corporate-sounding official term, silent learning, to rigorously justify doing absolutely nothing. We see that exact same brilliant dissonance in The Fake Sleep Expert. Get a load of this one. Speed sleeping, a phenomenon where a deeply asleep child instantly awakens upon hearing the words ice cream. When the mom points out the kid clearly wasn't sleeping if he jumped out of bed for a snack, he doesn't confess. No, he doubles down with a fake scientific phenomenon. Treating something completely absurd with serious, deadpan authority creates this massive comedic dissonance for the viewer. Or, take The Snack Monster. The kid is caught absolutely red-handed, empty-handed, with a face full of crumbs. Mom asks why the cookie jar is empty. It was a group project. Mom says, with who? Me, myself, and I? Utilizing professional educational terminology in a domestic setting creates this hilarious contrast. We love it because the kid is backed into a corner and tries to logic their way out using the very vocabulary they just learned in school. And that brings us to Section 4, mastering the comedic misdirection. Now, sometimes the comedy isn't just about absurd logic. It's about leading us down a specific path only to totally pull the rug out from under us. Take The Phone Detective. The setup deliberately makes us look everywhere else. We hear the ringing, we see them checking under the sofa, digging behind the TV. Our brains are actively engaged in the search. But the actual reality? The friend is holding the phone right to their ear, talking on it the entire time. The misdirection forces us to ignore the most obvious thing in the room, which makes the eventual reveal hit so much harder, mostly because we feel slightly foolish for missing it too. Now, compare that whole setup to the misdirection in The Smart Dog. The setup has us fully believing we're watching a skit about a genius dog. The owner asks, "What's 2 plus 2?" And the dog miraculously barks 4 times. We're totally primed for a punchline about a super smart pet. But then, the actual reality hits. When asked, "What's 10 plus 5?" the dog just turns around and walks away. The punchline isn't that the dog is a math prodigy, it's that even a dog hates doing heavy homework. It subverts our expectation entirely. Let's jump back and look at the resolution for that phone detective skit. You're talking to me on your phone. That's it. That is the entire punchline. It's sharp, it's undeniable, and it immediately pops the tension balloon. Remember those constraints we talked about earlier? Rapid setups demand an equally rapid, inescapable resolution to hit perfectly within that strict 60-second limit. It just leaves zero room for confusion. And finally, Section 5, Why Short Skits Succeeded. So pulling this all together really helps us understand exactly why funny skits work well. It boils down to a sort of comedy equation derived from these scripts. Step 1, establish immediate, ordinary friction. You need a strict teacher, a missing phone, an empty cookie jar. Step 2, inject a sudden dose of absurd logic or misdirection, like making eye contact with a book instead of actually reading it. And step 3, deliver a sharp, inescapable punchline before the minute is up. Essentially, drop the mic and get out. Ultimately, short comedy absolutely thrives on twisting the mundane moments of our everyday lives into rapid-fire absurdity. The real reason why these funny skits work so incredibly well, and why we just watch them over and over again, is because they give us a safe, quick release from the rigid rules of normal society. I mean, we can't actually tell our boss that we're attending a meeting spiritually, but watching a kid try to pull that on their mom gives us this great vicarious thrill. It just makes the boring parts of life feel a little bit more colorful. So I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge today. What mundane part of your own everyday routine could you twist into a 1-minute skit? Think about your morning commute, making your coffee, or, I don't know, trying to log into a forgotten account for the 100th time. How could you apply absurd logic or misdirection to that? Because once you understand the anatomy of a laugh, you really start seeing the potential for comedy absolutely everywhere. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for the punchline in the everyday.